A historic liberal arts college in Florida is the focus of an assault by Governor Ron DeSantis. Now, Florida, look, it's been a huge battleground. There's lots of culture war stuff going on in Florida. Ron DeSantis, of course, started that when he was elected and then reelected as a result of pushing these culture war fights and not actually doing anything for average people in the state of Florida. Just, again, banning critical race theory, going after, LGBTQ teachers, trans people, etc. So now he's going after education, and he's been doing that for quite some time. There was the whole Stop Woke Act, and as a result of some of the changes of that, we've seen again a huge focus on getting rid of teachers and making sure that there are subjects that teachers are no longer allowed to teach, not only in public schools, but now in colleges as well. And so the most recent attack against colleges came in the form of new school board trustees that were appointed. In fact, DeSantis had recently appointed 6 new school board trustees, including right-wingers Christopher Rufo, Charles Kessler, and Matt Spalding. So Rufo, of course, is pretty well known for being the guy who led the charge against critical race theory. But you also have Kessler as a senior fellow at the Claremont Institute, which is a far-right think tank. And then Spalding is a professor of government at Michigan's Hillsdale College. That is a deeply conservative private Christian school. And so as soon as they were appointed, they went to work pushing their own agenda. Now, what is that agenda? Well, they spell it out. In a tweet, Rufo said that the group will now seek to create a new core curriculum, which abolishes diversity, equity, and inclusion. Hey, everybody, we're against diversity, equity, and inclusion. Let's get rid of that. And they wanted to replace it with equality, merit, and colorblindness. They also want to hire faculty with expertise in constitutionalism, free enterprise, civic virtue, family life, religious freedom, and American principles, and to restructure academic departments to reflect a new pedagogical approach, among other policy changes. So basically, what I get from all of that is that they want to put in propaganda that ignores any social issues along the lines of race, ethnicity, and socioeconomics. Oh, great. Okay. So basically, here's the kind of education that they want you to get in Florida. America is 100% good at all times. They have never done anything wrong. Capitalism is the most amazing thing you could ever see, and never, ever, ever challenge it. Christianity, best thing ever invented, the greatest, and the right wing is always correct. How's that teaching diverse viewpoints? All you have to do is just, in order to get that, just watch Fox News. That's what you're going to get. So look, and by the way, the other things that they teach will likely be, hey, if you're struggling in life, it's not because of any disadvantage that you might have because of your socioeconomic upbringing in relation to the color of your skin, for example. No. It's just because you didn't work hard enough. And you didn't pray enough. That's what you weren't Jesus-y enough. You haven't found Jesus. Go grab a Bible, get a job, and do everything your boss tells you to do. Be a good little, worker and make money for your capitalist bosses. That's it. That's Republican higher education for you. That's what they want. They want obedient, docile workers who will accept very little pay, no benefits, and, the fact that they are easily replaceable. That's what they want. So now, in an interview with the New York Times on Friday, Rufo had written, quote, under the leadership of Governor Ron DeSantis, our all-store board will demonstrate that the public universities, which have been corrupted by woke nihilism. That's right. It's the wokes.
The wokers.
That's what's ruining this country is the wokeisms in the school. But says that this can be recaptured, restructured, and reformed. Adding that he hopes the takeover will spur conservative state legislators to, quote, reconquer public institutions all over the United States. Now, look, I try not to read too much into the language that's being used here, but when Rufo uses the word conquer, I mean, that implies takeover by force. I don't think that word choice is accidental. Okay? So, look, you can understand what the goal is here. The goal is to propagandize education. To do what they've accused liberals, the left, of doing, which is indoctrinating children. Which is funny because that so-called indoctrination is just teaching people other perspectives and facts. Yeah, but okay. All right. So now look, the reason that, of course, they're doing this, or they're really, really focusing on education, is because they've already lost Gen Z, they've lost millennials, and now they're looking to get the younger generation. Okay. And by the way, they think that education is making people progressive. I would argue that that's not the entirety of it. Yeah, I mean, obviously, facts and education do help in opening people's worldview and challenging like older ideas or conservative ideas or classic ideas, whatever, right? But I also think that it's important to take a look at what's going on or what's been going on for the past couple of decades. The reality of living through decades of disaster capitalism, where rich people have gotten richer, poor people have gotten poorer. The rest of us, we can't afford rent. People, especially younger people that are growing up today, they're facing unprecedented economic crises. I mean, millennials and Gen Z, we're generations that are now doing worse than our parents did at the same time in our lives. So, I mean, when you look at that, when you look at how everything is so incredibly effed up, you might think, maybe the status quo, maybe what's going on here with our economic system is not good. It's not working for us. And by the way, again, millennials and Gen Z, especially Gen Z, they're growing up at a time where the right is continuing to fight endless culture wars against transgender people, who are our friends, neighbors, sons, daughters, even parents. Against gay people, against reproductive rights, against things that we've had for decades. And while they're fighting the culture wars, you have millions of people that don't have health care or child care. You have rail workers that don't have sick days. And yet, they really believe that, oh, no, it's not any of that. It's the blue-haired professors. That's what, they're causing the younger generation to be woke.
The wokers.
That's what's going on. Yes. No, all you have to do is look at how everything is going on. What's going on? And look at the results. You've got neoliberal economic policies, corporate corruption, and nonstop culture wars. Politicians aren't solving problems because they're too busy fighting the culture wars. You think that the Republicans are actually going to do something to help average people? They just passed their first bill was to help tax cheats. People making over $400,000 a year, to make sure that the IRS does not audit those people. Are you kidding me? No, they don't want to help you. Now, look, the other thing is, yes, they don't want to help you. And then they also want to hide what they're doing. They want to make it so that you don't know what's going on, to hide knowledge from people, to hide history, to hide other points of view that do not look favorably on the conservative worldview. They don't want to, people to know that they were on the wrong side of things like civil rights and labor struggles. or just science in general. That's what's going on here. Again, going back to DeSantis and his Stop Woke Act, it was designed on purpose to, to ignore these very important American struggles in history. Now, that said, it is having a huge impact here. Last week, ProPublica's Dan Goldman reported that Florida professors had ended up canceling courses or watering down their content in response to DeSantis's legislation. Multiple sociology courses on race were canceled at the University of Central Florida. Of the 39 courses offered this past fall by a department that specializes in the study of human society, Goldman reports, none focused primarily on race. And so understand what that is. That's censorship. They are censoring this point of view. They are censoring this information because they don't agree with it. Whether or not, they know it's true, and they do know it's true. And that's the reason, by the way, that they go after it so hard. They wouldn't be threatened by this if there wasn't truth in it. In the New Republic, Jack McCordick writes this: Rufo has relentlessly pursued a series of, quote, educational gag orders. Talking about censorship here. In a number of states that have sought to prevent professors from discussing certain topics related to race, gender, and sexuality. Yeah. And then, it's not just Rufo, but you have his friends as well. Kessler and Spalding, from Claremont and Hillsdale, respectively. Now, the think tank that Kessler is from, as well as the Christian University that Spalding is from, were home to some of the country's most notorious coup plotters and insurrectionists, he writes. And since then, since they had glommed onto Trump, they have backed away because Trump is a man baby who just keeps crying about 2020. And basically, they believe that he has no future in Republican politics. Well, we'll have to see. But they have sidled up to DeSantis. Claremont recently gave DeSantis, not recently, in 2021, gave DeSantis its Statesmanship Award. And Hillsdale president introduced the Florida governor as one of the most important people living during a 2022 event in Naples. Hillsdale has also taken an active role in DeSantis' efforts to transform the state's educational system into one that is, not very educational. Spalding and Kessler also served on Donald Trump's 1776 commission, which in its so-called report called for, quote, restoring patriotic education. So, patriotic education, I guess also known as propaganda. No, that's essentially what it is. And look, every country has done propaganda. The United States did tons of propaganda during World War II, for example. And it's to, encourage people to support the war effort and all that and fight against the Nazis, right? Every country does propaganda. It basically is, hey, we're the good guys. We look good. Here's why you should support us. This is to keep morale up, right? So now, like I said, this is patriotic education. This is another form of propaganda. In this case, teaching college kids that the United States, in everything that they've ever done, has been correct, and especially those who are the white leaders of the United States. I think it's very important to point that out. Now, the 1776 report from the Trump administration accused American universities of being, quote, hotbeds of anti-Americanism. Yes, pointing out how America's done some bad things in the past, and maybe those were not good things, and maybe we shouldn't have done those things, and maybe we should, I don't know, learn about those things so that we don't do them again. That would be a good thing to do, but they disagreed. They also claim that universities are hotbeds of libel and censorship. Fascinating. Very, very interesting. Talking about censorship here. And blame deliberately destructive scholarship for violence in our cities, suppression of free speech in our universities, and defamation of our treasured national statues and symbols. And you want to talk about censorship when Republicans are banning books all over the country. Right. Sure. And by the way, look, it's promoting violence. Some of the most violent cities in the country are in red states. Oops. And national statues and symbols that they claimed that they want to defend were not even from America. They were Confederate statues, Confederate symbols. A country that literally seceded from the United States and started the Civil War. They wanted to destroy America. I mean, come on. No other country would tolerate symbols and statues from an enemy they had defeated that had seceded from their country. No way. No way that would fly, but here we are. We do. And by we, I guess I mean people who are clinging on to the racist past. But anyway, in a statement responding to that report that was signed by 47 other organizations, the American Historical Association wrote that its authors called for a form of government indoctrination of American students and in the process elevated ignorance about the past to a civic virtue. Important to note that Spalding, I believe, had served as one of the heads of that report. But that's the plan. That's what they want to do with our education system, including higher education. Now, the thing about colleges here is that you're supposed to be there's supposed to be places where you challenge your worldview, right? And by the way, that goes for both sides. Sometimes people, from a progressive or more liberal, background, I should say, get challenged with conservative beliefs, and there should be a free exchange of ideas and a debate. I think that's normal. I think that's totally fine. I think it should be encouraged. I think there should be debate here, and there's an example of how debate actually can change people's minds. I know you wouldn't think it, right? Based on YouTube debate bros, but at the same time, it does happen. One former student of New College actually points that out. It's a great example of this. Derek Black. Derek Black was raised in a white supremacist household, a very white supremacist household. His father was a former KKK Grand Wizard who founded Stormfront. So yeah, he went to New College back in 2009 as an avowed white supremacist. Eventually, through conversation, he stopped being a white supremacist. In fact, here's what he said, quote, "Through many talks with devoted and diverse people at New College, people who chose to invite me into their dorms and conversations rather than ostracize me, I began to realize the damage I had done." Black recounted in a 2016 New York Times op-ed. At the same time, Black wrote that he wouldn't have begun to engage in those college conversations, quote, "without experiencing first clear and passionate outrage to what I believed from those I interacted with." So, look, that's interesting. That's interesting. So first, the guy goes to the school and was floored. Why do these people, what's going on with these people? Why are they yelling at me? Why are they calling me a racist? But instead of getting offended, he asks questions. He's like, oh, it turns out I was completely wrong about my entire worldview. Huh. That's why having these conversations is good. And yes, by the way, you get like a lot of lefties here who don't want to have conversations. And that sucks, because I think conversations are what bring a lot of people to the left. I mean, look, the left is I don't think a lot of people are born leftists. Some are, and good for you. You've arrived at this sooner than a lot of other people. But then you have people who are, who grow up maybe apolitical, middle of the road, some even, hardcore Christian conservative growing up. And this guy, black, was an extreme, growing up in a very white supremacist household. And then you have a little bit of an awakening, and you start to realize things. You start to learn things. And I think college is fantastic for that, because that really allows you to go and learn those things and see those things and go, oh, right. It turns out I was wrong about these things, and I have an open enough mind to admit that. And then we'll come over to the left. And so I think there needs to be a conversation about the current left not being as open as it should be into bringing people over from that side, taking people from that pipeline, and also, by the way, having a conversation about preventing people, especially young, white men, from getting into that pipeline in the first place. So, that said, colleges being places where this can happen, this can be facilitated, is one of the reasons I think right-wingers want to shut it down. They look at this, they look at situations like Mr. Black and say, no, can't happen. We're not interested. Going from the right wing.
Oh, no.
Nope, can't have it. We cannot have students deprogramming racists. We can't have them becoming woke. We can't do that. So understand, though, what the entire point of all of these changes, not just in Florida, but in other places across the country where you have right-wingers that have taken over school boards, right-wingers that have taken over boards of trustees for colleges, and have enacted in state governments these kinds of changes to the curriculums. It's all about trying to indoctrinate students. It's not the left that's doing it. It's the right wing. And the only way that they can stay in power is to restrict knowledge. And if you're the one restricting knowledge, if you're burning the books, you're the baddies.